the first time since 2009, the Duquesne Dukes are on their way to the A10 semifinals. And this time, they're going to face off against another familiar opponent for the third time around, and that's St. Bonaventure. Hello and welcome to the Duquesne Sports Pregame Show. I'm Jack Morgan. Alongside me, Dylan Pfister. Got a big one to discuss. Doesn't happen often. It's been the last time Duquesne made it to the A10 semifinals. Like I said, 2009. They are 2 games away from making it back to the NCAA tournament for the first time in the 21st century. I mean, big game coming up here, Dylan. And how they got here was a fantastic win over Dayton. Let's break that down first real quick because you got to go through that first. What did Duquesne do right in that game?
Yeah, like you said, Jack, I mean, there's so many players. This is going to be their last couple showings for the Dukes, and it's just been such an amazing run to watch them go on. But how did they get here? Well, that Dayton game, they finally did what they couldn't do all season and the past few seasons against the Flyers, shut down that offense, and they were able to do so. They were finally able to hold the Flyers to under 60 points. In previous games, the Flyers had scored 75 and 72. Now, I looked at the numbers a little bit, and I wanted to see how they were able to do that. And it was mainly due to the Flyers' shooting percentage dropping drastically in this game. And I think the thing that pointed out most easily in that game was the Dukes' defense. We talk about their 4th-ranked defense all the time and how it often overcompensates for that offense. They were just flying around in that game. They held the Flyers to a 32% team field goal percentage. In the past 2 games against the Dukes, they hit 47% of their shots, and they averaged 45 on the year. That is a significant decrease and definitely a big reason the Dukes won that game.
They only made 16 field goals. And Ron Holmes, Holmes in that game did not he only made 5 field goals. He had no field goals in that first half, and that was one of the primary reasons why Duquesne was able to get out to that lead. They really played a great brand of basketball in that first half in their defense. Yeah. The defense looked motivated.
Yeah, and we talked so much about Ron Holmes in the pregame show, and it seemed like every Duke was up to the task when it came to defending him. We talked a lot about that moment towards the end of the game where Nietzsche went into guard him because of the
Talking about that all day. Yeah.
Dave Dixon had fouled out, and I believe it was Trey Williams with the shoulder injury, and it was next man up for the Dukes. Nietzsche went in and blocked Holmes on a layup, and the Dukes got the ball off of that. It was next man up mentality that whole game for the Dukes, defensively and offensively as well.
And Holmes also it felt like Duquesne was not able to guard cleanly Holmes, but they made him earn it from the stripe and give Holmes a lot of credit. He shot 13 of 16 from the line. That's not half bad for college basketball. But aside from that, to be able to hold him to 1 field goal in the first half and 3 points, it really set the tone defensively.
It definitely did, and this isn't to take away from the performance of Ron Holmes because we're talking about a guy who, on top of all this, did put up 24 points. But compared to what he's done to the Dukes in previous games this season, it was definitely a better performance against him all around by the defense.
And, Duquesne got into foul trouble, right? There's no denying it. Duquesne had some foul trouble. Dave Dixon ended up fouling out, right? And that's not ideal. And you had Nietzsche coming with those huge minutes. But also, talk about Dusan Mahoricic, Trey Williams, and Chabi Beret. They played some fantastic minutes in this game.
Yeah, Jack, and we talked in the pregame show again about how those were going to be the guys that needed to have big days. Those were the guys that needed to draw fouls like they weren't able to against the Flyers in previous games. Those were the guys that needed to challenge the Flyers' big men down low, and they definitely rose to the task. And I don't think anybody jumps off the stat sheet when it comes to points for that game, but that's because it was a team effort. All those guys you mentioned had 5, 6, 7 points, and that's what needed to get done for them to win.
There might be one guy that jumped off the stat sheet, and he goes by Jimmy Clark. What a game from him. He didn't exactly have the best of first halves by any means. In the first half, he had 7 in the first half, and he came out in that second half, and he had 9 huge points, especially that dagger 3 that pretty much he called game there. mean,
Yeah, that dagger three was massive, and that just we've known this all season and his whole career here at Duquesne. And Jimmy Clark has ice in his veins, but he showed it there, and then with the celebration, he showed it as well. That was just so clutch in that moment, and yeah, he had a fantastic game, like you said, jumping off the stat sheet: 16 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists. He went 4 for 4 on his free throws. 2 3-pointers for him, a fantastic performance, and I see another big game coming for him against the Bonnies.
now, I want to touch on one more thing before we shift towards the Bonaventure game. And, I mean, Day Grant. Now, he hasn't been as electric as he was at times in the regular season. I mean, he shot 4 of 13 from the field. It didn't feel like that. It felt like he had some big shots in this game that really you might not remember. I mean, I know that I saw a clip today of a Day Grant three. Forgot it happened, but it was such a big three to stretch it back to 6. He came up with some timely shots and some timely plays too, playmaking wise.
He definitely did, and it's really fun to watch Day become so confident in those ranged threes because, like you say, he only had the one, but he did drop 11 points, and we've been seeing that from him, those farther shots later in this season, and it's, again, cool to watch his confidence grow, but he's always there. He's always going to make an impact. Him and Jimmy Clark, whether they're leading the game in points or not, they're gonna make an impact.
So now we're going to shift towards St. Bonaventure and just kind of talk about them as a team. And it feels like St. Bonaventure has been up and down and up and down. It's like a valley with them.
It definitely is, but I will talk about this, Jack. They do have 4 players on that team. Looking back at the Loyola Chicago game, they had 4 players that played 40-plus minutes. It was Charles Pride with 41 minutes, Asamvos, with 45 minutes, 48 minutes for Micah Adams-Woods, and Daryl Banks had 43 minutes. That was in the Loyola Chicago win. So they have had a rocky start, but when you look at those 4 names, a rocky season, those 4 names are the guys that lead this Bonaventure team in minutes played throughout the year. So at this point in the season, yes, it's been a little rocky, but they are leaning on their most reliable players, and it's working out for them. It's gotten them this far, and I think if they lean on those 4 again, they can beat the Dukes.
We talk about rocky, but in the biggest part of that rocky season, they've lost to Duquesne twice. Now, bring back any familiarities with the Duquesne and Dayton situation. How Dayton had 1-2 against Duquesne. Duquesne came out firing. That you'd have to expect that was St. Bonaventure. Now, those 2 games that Duquesne and St. Bonaventure played on January 23rd, they played at the Coop, and Duquesne won 54-50 over the Bonnies. And there were no Dukes in double figures. It was actually really, as Keith Dambrot would say, a true mud wrestling game. And Duquesne shot 30.6% from the field goal from the fields, rather. And only 27% shooting from the field for Bonaventure, but Duquesne found a way to win that one. And then on the road, Duquesne found a way again. They won 75-69, but it felt like they really dominated that game from start to finish. Bonaventure made a run towards the end, but Duquesne had held the lead for most of that game. And Jimmy Clark had 15. Fusini Drama had 16. Duquesne, they shot better at a 45.8% clip. You talked about Micah Adams-Woods. He did not play in that first game on January 23rd. However, he then did play in the game on the 13th, rather. Correct? Yeah, the 10th. The 10th it is. And he actually put up 22 points. So clearly, Adams-Woods was a big player to not have in that first game they played. I mean, Adams-Woods played fantastic last night. What does he do for this team?
I mean, yeah, like you said, Jack, that was a big piece they were missing, and he brings those points. He brings that aggressiveness. And you also look at, for the Dukes, who they were missing in that first game, was Day Grant. Now, he came into the second game and had 12 points, nothing crazy, but a good performance from him. And that shows you also what one player coming back, maybe not having a ton of points for themselves, but what they can do for the other players on the court and what they did for the entire offense. Like you said, the Dukes wildly improved, went from 54 points in the first game to 77 in the second game. But on the other hand, Bonaventure also improved, going from 50 points to 69. That's what Micah Adams-Woods did to that team. He brought up that shooting percentage as he always does. He's been one of the best shooters on that team, so I think he's definitely going to be a big factor in this third time around.
Yep, absolutely agreed. And I think, yeah, we'll now go into the players to watch for both sides. You say we'll start with St. Bonaventure while we're on the topic of the Bonnies. And who's going to be your player to watch, Dylan?
It's actually a perfect transition for me, Jack, because I'm just going to wrap us right back around to
There we
Micah
go.
Adams-Woods, second ranked in the A10 in three-point percentage. He's going to bring that to this game. He's going to bring what the Bonnies have been missing in the two previous matchups, and that's just a constant active shooter in the building. He's going to really help that offense out.
He is one of the players that I don't think gets enough love in terms of like the media for A10, but he missed some games. That's also why he wasn't considered for one of those A10 all-conference teams. And as for my player to watch, I'm actually going to go Charles Pride now. Charles Pride, in 2 games against Duquesne, he averages 18 points per game this season against them. And in the first game, he had 14, which for how that game went, 54-50 final, 14 points is pretty darn good. And it feels like it's the equivalent of 22 in the second game he had against the Duquesne Dukes. He had 22 in that loss at home against Duquesne. And the thing with a guy like Charles Pride is you got Mike Adams-Woods back in this one. You have Charles Pride. You have those big boys down low with Brown and Venning. This team really is complete in terms of their lineup. They can beat you in so many ways. Bonaventure it doesn't feel like they're a 7 seed. They got 20 wins on the year. They just were inconsistent. Duquesne knows a thing or two about that because they too have been inconsistent. They were as bad as they were in the first 5 games. Then they rebounded, and now they're rolling now. But there's been inconsistency for both sides. They know a thing or two about that. And I think Charles Pride being consistently good against Duquesne is something you have to watch out for. And we're going to switch to Duquesne now. So who we watching for Duquesne?
Yeah, when I'm talking about Duquesne, I've talked about him a lot this year. I'm a big fan of this guy. Possibly, if they lose his last game as a Duke, Fusini Drame is my player to watch for the Dukes. 9 rebounds versus Dayton, 14 rebounds in Game 2 versus St. Bonaventure. He played fantastic against them. He also had 16 points, went 2 for 2 from the three-point line. He's been a Bonnie killer all season, and I think he's going to do it again.
I like that term, Bonnie killer. Not bad at all. And I'm going to go with Day Grant for my player to watch. I think that Day, now he didn't have as good of a game against the Bonnies the first time around, that 75-69 win. While he did put up 11 points, he did shoot 0 of 6 from 3. And Day Grant's better than that. Day Grant can absolutely shoot a better percentage from 3. I think they need him to. And I think he's going to do that tonight. Tonight. He's going to do that tonight. I think that is how Duquesne's going to win this game, is if Day Grant can get going from deep. There is only one instance where Duquesne has lost when Day Grant has put up 30+. And that was in a game where they played probably, aside from Day Grant, one of their worst games against the season in Vegas. So I think that Day Grant getting things going will be a big piece. But also, I think, I did mean to bring this up, Jimmy Clark. The past 4 games now, he's really been fantastic, and he's kind of been leading this offense. So is that something you think he can keep up? And do you think he kind of change offense around a little bit to give Jimmy Clark more touches?
I think maybe you do. I don't see a reason why not to. He's on a roll. That's going to continue. I think you come out right out of the gate and you give Jimmy all the touches he wants. Let him take some threes, and because I think that's what this game is going to turn into. I think it's going to turn into a 3-point shootout, and who better to have you leading your Army into that than Jimmy Clark?
Absolutely. We're going to go into our game picks here in the A10 semifinals. A trip to the finals on the line. Is Duquesne going to get the job done?
In this instance, Jack, I think the Dukes are going to get the job done, but I see, like I said, an absolute shootout between both sides. For Duquesne, it's going to be Jimmy Clark, Day Grant, Fousseyni Drame raining the threes in all day. And, I mean, for the Bonnies, they have themselves 3 players that rank top 20 in the three-point percentage is in the A10. You know, they've got their shooters as well, and they've proven that all year. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I am going to take the Dukes 80-75.
So the Dukes had a tough time with the slow starts in the beginning of the year. And so heading into these A10 tournament previews shows, how many times have we said they need to get off to a strong start? Because I think we're probably in the double digits. But we sound like a broken record, but I can say this with absolute certainty. When the Dukes get out to a hot start and get out to a strong start and they come out flying out the gates, they tend to win. If they can do that, and I think they will, I think Dambrot's got them fired up heading out of the locker room. I think they come out with a strong start. And I don't think St. Bonaventure is like Dayton in the fact that Bonaventure is going to come roaring back and even take a lead in the second half. I think Duquesne is going to lead this one throughout. I think Bonaventure will make their runs as every A10 tournament game has had. Every A10 tournament game has had a team jump out in front, and then the team that's trailing has always, every single time, chipped their way back. Sometimes they've gone back into it and won. Sometimes they come up just short. I think that's going to be another one of those games. If you're a Duquesne fan, I'm sorry, but I think this is going to be another heart attack. It's going to be another roller coaster. But I think Duquesne wins. I think Duquesne gets it done. I think they win by 7. I think they win 70-63, and they go on to the championship game. And if we do see Duquesne win, we'll be having the championship game pregame show live from either inside Barclays or outside Barclays, somewhere around there. It's going to be live from Brooklyn. And if that happens, we'll see you then. If not, well, I'm sure it will be a heck of a game regardless. I think Bonaventure, Duquesne, a big rivalry. Both sides vying to get to the A10 championship and fight for a spot in March Madness. We'll see what happens. Thank you so much for watching the Duquesne Sports Pregame Show. I'm Jack Morgan. Dylan Fisher, thank you for joining me all year.
Thank you, Jack.
Enjoy the game, everyone.